all you beautiful women. I just wanted to firstly say thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us in this absolutely amazing setting that Valence has been so generous to offer us and hosting us this morning. But so I want to start this morning off and just, I think, position the morning and what Win at Work really means and the heart behind it, and just why we are here, why we are gathering. And it's not always about the impact in numbers, but the impact of hearts and the stories that we tell and the stories that matter. So I just want to, thank you so much for everybody for coming and being here with us this morning. And I hope this is our first Win at Work event. And it's more of a mix and a mingle and creating friendships and connections with each other. And we're starting it small, and we might just keep it small. We might not go beyond the numbers that we are today. And I think we want to keep it organic, we want to keep it authentic, and not just follow in the footsteps of other people that's done it before, but to maybe pioneering something. So just a little bit of background. I'm Lindy. I'm the CEO of Digger, which is a recruitment, automation, and content platform for the mining industry. So what Digger does is we shortlist and we communicate the talent that your mine requires. So we are in different mines at the moment, and we are focused on obviously growing it in Africa, in South Africa, and internationally. But the Win at Work, and this is why we are here, is an initiative that is powered by Digger. So how Win at Work came about is we felt that we're finding and we're promoting women in mining through our digital platform. But what about the support that we are giving the women? What about the connections and the community that we are creating around them? And we wanted to have a lasting impact in their lives. We wanted to create and cultivate a career of our dreams. That is a very important thing for us, to uplift and empower women and younger generations that's coming before us. So that is the heart behind it, and I'm so privileged that you come and just be along for the journey and be along for this crazy ride that we call being a woman and being a modern woman in the working world. So thank you so much. We can give yourselves a hand. So just with the formalities, we want to say thank you for Valence, for their sponsorship and being so behind the message of what we wanted to create, as well as our sponsors that also just felt that they are with us for women. It's Iwari. They're a beauty product that's made in South Africa for the South African women. So I felt it's such a good message for us and being a part of our legacy in South Africa. Then Sorbet has contributed in numerous ways that I cannot even explain. They've really rallied behind us and just said, guys, we feel that this message needs to spread across South Africa, especially within our mining environment that is quite male-dominated, as we know. But the message that I want to create and the talk that I want to create around today is not one of previously disadvantaged or oppressed. I want us to really stand up and say we are women that is unique. We have a unique skill set. We have a unique voice that can complement the workforce. It makes the teams and our organizations stronger, and we lead differently to men. We don't want to be men, but we just want to complement them. They complement us and make the workforce even stronger than what it can be, or what it is today. So we're going to hear from 3 other ladies that is really making an impact in their community around them, in their organizations. We're going to hear from them today, and they're going to inspire and uplift and empower us as we walk out of this morning to know that we are not alone, that our story matters, and that we have more in common with one another than differences. And that is just a positive message that I really want us to embed in our language, as words matter, and it gives life to so many of our actions. So I'm going to start. So I'm going to do a little bit of a keynote, talk about what is important to me, and I wanted to share a little bit of my journey with you. So obviously, as I said, I'm I'm Lindy, and I just want to get my notes. Yeah, I'm getting the notes. So I'm going to sit down here. So the last few weeks I've met with strong and very inspirational women. And the common thread that wields itself through the tapestry of their lives is that they lead from a place of vulnerability. Now, they are living wholeheartedly. They know that in our most vulnerable list of places is where we find connection, where we feel so exposed. That's where we find meaning. That's where we connect with one another. It's not always in the highs and on the Instagram stories, right? Where it's all picket fence and, oh, look at me, you know. But it's in our dark places that we don't put on social media. That's where we find meaning, and that's where we find connection. Vulnerability is not knowing defeat or victory. It is understanding the necessity of both. It's engaging, it's being all in. So I don't know about you, but I've been quite vulnerable in my life, where I had to leave everything on the floor and be messy, have the dirt on my face, and just push through and put one foot in front of the other. So as I thought back when I was preparing for today, as I was thinking back about my vulnerability and leadership style and just, giving some thought about this, a quote from Theodore Roosevelt, which is 19 Futsak. He did this thing, he did this speech in front of everybody. It rings true to me today, and I read this a couple of years ago, starting out as this young, dynamic, conquer the world woman, and it still rings true for me today. So I want to share it with you, and hopefully it can inspire you to one day, if you think back about this, then you would remember his speech as well. So it's not the critic that counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again. I've come short again and again. But because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasm, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly. For me, it made such a difference in my life when I read this thing. So for me, vulnerability is not weakness. And the uncertainty, the risk, and the personal exposure that we all face every day, it's not optional. We know that, right? It's not optional. We go through these things. Our only choice is our willingness to engage. Our willingness to own and engage our own vulnerability will determine the depth of our courage, right? And the clarity of our purpose. I grew up in a small town south of Gauteng, or very south of Gauteng, called Vereniging. After university, which I started with as a law student, and then majoring in clinical and industrial psychology. I know I'm a psychologist by trade. I know there's a lot of perspective about that. I found my first job as a recruitment consultant in one of the Fortune 500 companies in South Africa. This was the first time I met shame, unmet expectations, and the fear of failure 3 months in. I felt exposed, I felt vulnerable, I felt out of place. And in that moment, I had to realize that I need to deal with these emotions at one point or another. I need to face them head on. I can't ignore them. If I ignore them, they won't go away. They'll just rear their ugly head later on in life. Every morning I woke up with fear and apprehension. I hated that job, was an understatement. One particularly very seemingly mundane morning, I walk into the office and sitting at the desk of my colleague, we started chatting, catching up, and complain about our jobs, like birds of a feather flock together, And she blurts out all of a sudden, very bravely, with this big smile on her face, she says, I've just resigned. And in that moment, I thought to myself, I never want to look like that. To me, that was the face of failure. Now, sitting opposite her, I was confronted with two options. Number one, am I willing to face, to own and engage my own vulnerability? Or number two, protecting myself from my vulnerability by the measure of my fear and disconnection. In that moment, I chose the first option. I rumbled, I wrestled, and engaged with my vulnerability. And that gave me the courage to face the suckiness of the situation, to shift my perspective, to step out, to put on a new lens in order for me to view it from a different angle or different viewpoint. I stepped into the arena. I got messy, because it's messy dealing with all these things that comes out of our hearts, right? All the emotion that people say we shouldn't be emotional in the workplace. It's not a good thing, but we are made up of emotions. That's how we are good mothers. That's how we are good friends. That's how we connect. I set a new goal for myself, a new vision, to be GM of the Gauteng region of this conglomerate here in South Africa. A month before my 30th birthday, I walked into that position and led an all-female team of 40. So it's amazing how your vulnerability changes your perspective. That day, the courage that sprung up from me being vulnerable and staring it in its face, it changed the trajectory of my life forever. So who knew this would be a foretaster for what to come in my life later on in a couple of years. So over the past 9 years, I've transitioned from GM to entrepreneur and founder and CEO. When I think about my personal experience with leading over the last couple of years, the only endeavor that required more self-awareness and the same level of high comms plans, right, is being married for 14 years and raising and parenting a gorgeous, feisty, 9-year-old little girl called Zoe. Yeah, and that says a lot. That says a lot. I completely underestimated the pull of my emotional bandwidth, the constant decision-making and problem-solving. Oh, and yes, the sleepless nights, that's also there, I know. Naya, you just had a little one, you know what I'm talking about. My moment to daring greatly stared me in the face, I think it was December 2011, when my life changed with one phone call. I don't know if you've had that one phone call. That one phone call that threatens to write a new story about your life. That one phone call that threatens to shake the world off its axis. So it's 27 weeks. I can feel her kicking. Even if it's a little bit different to what I've experienced with Zoe when I was pregnant. So as our holiday draws to a close, I receive a call from the gynae instructing me to go and see a specialist. So oblivious to the fact how the story is unfolding, I walk into the specialist's office. She does the scan, and devastating news follows. A roller coaster of a ride follows. You are on autopilot. Your life revolves around doctor's appointments, blood tests, scans, Oh, and don't forget, you learn a new language called medical all of a sudden. It puts life into perspective. It really rearranges and reorganizes your priorities. So Maylee was born 22nd of March, 2012. Maylee died 30th of May, 2012. So one thing I've learned is that you can't get to courage unless you wrestle with vulnerability. And oh, have I wrestled with vulnerability. Again, unmet expectations, the fear of failure, coming to grips with my new story. A story that will hinge again on two choices. Number one, am I willing to own and engage my own vulnerability? Or number two, protect myself from my vulnerability by the fear or the measure of my fear and my disconnection. Again, I chose the first option, to engage and let courage be my legacy. Most of us feel brave and scared all at the same time, right? Most of us feel vulnerable almost the whole day long. We feel vulnerable, and in moments that we step into the arena that Roosevelt explained, we hear the call between fear and courage. We must dare to show up. We must dare to let ourselves be seen, to put one foot in front of the other, even if it seems impossible for that day, whether we face a work environment that is not conducive to women, even if we face the death of a child or the scarred marriage that you need to go home to. As I sat at that small hospital bed, God was calling me close. He was cultivating my purpose, helping me to stare vulnerability in the face, in order for him to do a great work in me, but also then later to do a great work through me. I believe I'm a better leader for being open about my vulnerability, to own my story, to share my story, to let my courage be contagious for others to be able to share their story. Our stories matter, our voice matters. It's in these seemingly dark and shadowy places of our lives that we do not put onto social. That's where we find meaning. That's where we connect with one another. I'm a more graceful leader that focuses on people. Like, I want to love people more. Like, this is where this is birthed. It's like, I want to love, I want to connect with people and women more that's gone through what we've gone through, right? I don't focus on just the production anymore. Yes, it's important, but that's not my beginning and end all. It's not the to-do lists of the day, because we do get lost in them every single day. And then we do have those odd occasions where you feel very proud of yourself for ticking off that item on your to-do list, because sometimes you don't have the emotional bandwidth to deal with that. So today's culture, it bombards us with messages of who we should be, what we should do, but it also shows us how short we fall. So we don on our mask because we never measure up. We never measure up. I look at all these magazines and I sometimes compare myself to, and I know we all do it, to all these magazines and the perfect bodies and we know we don't measure up. We hide in our dark bedrooms and medicate our anxieties, or we do both. We know we're a hot mess. We lose our courage. We become numb. For the ones who choose to do it, to stepping into this bravery and facing their own vulnerability, it's like stepping into a terrible fear, who make the decision to get up every morning to put one foot in front of the other, which is tough. I know. There's some mornings where I wake up and I don't wake up looking like this, right? I don't. This takes effort, right? And you look at yourself and you think, I'm almost pushing 40. And this is hard work getting to this. I go to gym every day. We're just talking about it. And, but yes, I know. So, but these ladies that step out of their comfort zones, that step into this vulnerability and really make the choice to do what's good, not always what is easy, no matter what life throws at us, I woke up this morning at 2 o'clock in the morning, my child couldn't sleep. I do it, I show up. I show up to work, not complaining, Maybe I need a call to a friend that I might have connected with here to say, I'm not having such a good day. Can you just pray for me? Can you help me? Can you uplift my spirits? And that's what we need to do for one another, right? So, through the past couple of years, I've met strong and vulnerable women that's become like family to me. These women choose to lean in, to engage, and lead from a place of vulnerability. These are the women steadily making the decision to step out of the boat onto the water. Women choosing to take off their masks and live their most authentic selves, no matter what the judgment is, because you know you're okay, even if they judge you. I want to live in a world where there's braver and more bolder leaders. I want to pass that world on to my daughter one day. And I'm sure most of you who have children, you want to do the same. This world is desperately in need of leaders that lead from a place of authenticity, a place from the heart, and not a place where they are unevolved and hurt and they lead from fear. I want to be one of those leaders. I want to raise one of those leaders. But most of all, guys, I want to lead from a place of vulnerability where I've chosen to engage and to own that vulnerability. Thank you.